Hawaii Tourism Authority. Your annual conference now underway. Tell us a little bit about who's at the convention center and what they're talking about.
Well, this is the premier conference of tourism hospitality industry that happens once a year. And so we have folks who are intimately involved in ensuring that we market and we manage tourism well. We have experts from Washington, D.C. that have come, like the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Travel and Tourism, Alex Lasry, who I have the privilege of working with because I sit on the National Travel and Tourism Advisory Board. He was one of our speakers. And then all our major government leaders are there also sharing their manao with us, from Governor Green to the chairs of the Tourism Senate Committee and the House Tourism Committee, the Senate Ways and Means Committee chair, and the presumed next Speaker of the House is also there.
Well, let's talk about the state of tourism right now, what we're seeing with some of the numbers, obviously a year out after what's happened on the island of Maui and just the impact that it had not only to the island of Maui, but to the state as a whole. What are we seeing with some of the data that we've seen over this last year?
Well, obviously, you know, I like to talk in the context of it was not just the Maui wildfires, but we were also reeling coming back from the pandemic. And the Maui wildfires just exacerbated that situation. So the numbers are soft. Maui is about 25% down from what it used to be. Maui is the most dependent county on travel and tourism. So we're not content to sit back and sort of hope that things get better. We actually have a proactive plan that starts first with our messaging, that Maui is indeed open and welcomes visitors back. Very, very pleased that Mayor Richard Bisson and Governor Josh Green went with us on what we call a saturation mission of Southern California, our most important and largest domestic market, where we were there making it very clear to the folks in Southern California that we want them to come back. And we were joined by a host of private sector. The industry was there in force. So the state put up 1.5 million. The industry came in and put in like a 3-to-1 over what we put in there. So they were really behind this this mission that we had there, and making it clear to all our partners that Maui is open and we want them to come back. And we also saw perhaps some new opportunities going forward. The Los Angeles Rams is very excited of having an opportunity to come back regularly in some form or fashion. And we're interested in hearing that proposal out. So it was a great trip. And it was also a way for Governor Green to save to the Los Angeles Rams on behalf of 11 sports franchises in LA. Thank you very much for contributing $450,000 to Maui when the wildfires occurred.
You know,